Welcome. It is Verdict with Senator Ted Cruz, Ben Ferguson with you. It is election night in America. I am in Israel right now. It's about 6:14 in the morning in Israel. I don't even know what time it is in Washington, D.C. right now. That's how jet-lagged I am. And we are doing a joint podcast today with Verdict with Ted Cruz, my show, the Ben Ferguson podcast as well, to cover everything going on with the election and also some incredible moments in Israel. Senator, it is official. New York is turning red, communist red. The big red apple is now a communist red apple. Let's start with that.
Well, listen, it is 11:14 p.m. in Washington, D.C., and I got to say, tonight was a terrible night for Republicans. It was a terrible night for conservatives, and it was a terrible night for America. The damage in New York City, the damage in Virginia, the damage in New Jersey, the damage in California has been enormous. We're going to break down this really disappointing and dangerous electoral result that happened tonight. We're also going to talk about the fact that Ben is on the ground in Israel. What is he seeing? Who is he meeting with? What is the dynamic? Israel has just won a war. They have just defeated Iran in a 12-day war. They are still battling Hamas. There's an historic peace deal that President Trump has negotiated, but Hamas is resisting and violating the peace deal. We're going to talk about what Ben is seeing on the ground, all of that on today's Verdict.
Yeah, it's truly incredible. Many of you may not know this. I actually own two different barbecue restaurants, one right now, and the quality of meat when you want to make amazing food is so vitally important. Now, you've heard of Big Pharma, but have you ever heard of Big Ag? Did you know that 85% of American beef is controlled by just 4 major companies? Just because you buy American doesn't mean you're buying healthy. And buying organic only means they control what the cattle eat, not how they live. Well, that's why I want you to know about Backyard Butchers. It is Texas steer steaks that come directly from a real Texas ranch where the cattle are raised, processed, and shipped from the same location, completely bypassing Big Ag. These Texas steers are 98% grass-fed and then 2% natural grain finish. That's how you get amazing steaks with no growth hormones, no antibiotics, and no preservatives. The quality and flavor are just straight up exceptional. Making America healthy again, yes, that is a big deal. And it starts with going back to our roots and eating real meat from the hardworking ranchers who raise cattle the right way. So try it. You're going to love it. So go to backyardbutchers.com, enter the promo code VERDICT for up to 30% off, 2 free 10-ounce ribeyes, and free shipping when you subscribe. So fight back against Big Ag with your fork. Support American ranchers, support Texas, and you're going to get a great meal. Backyardbutchers.com, promo code VERDICT to get up to 30% off and 2 free 10-ounce ribeyes plus free shipping right now. So, Senator, as I sit here right now, and many of you are going to get to watch this on YouTube, as we're also putting this up on YouTube, this episode, I am in Israel. This is my first time. So I've had 5 trips planned to come to Israel. The first 4 got canceled, one from COVID, the other 3 because of wars that had broken out. This dates back all the way to 2004, 2005, and the first time I was supposed to go to Israel. And I cannot tell you, you've been here, just being able to do simple things like going to the Wailing Wall, staying here in Jerusalem, have been a spiritual journey that I would tell everyone listening to Verdict right now. It is safe to come to Israel right now. That is the one thing that's very clear from the ceasefire. There are lots of people coming back to see this incredible country. But if you are a person of faith, and you've experienced this, coming to Israel connects so many dots. I was at the Sea of Galilee yesterday, and getting to witness as historians and religious leaders were telling the stories of the Bible, whether it was the Beatitudes, whether it was walking on water, whether it was the fish that continued to feed, seeing the miracles of Jesus before your very eyes, overlooking this incredible country, while at the same time being moments away from where this war was taking place and people were being killed, was a somber but special moment.
So Ben, have you been to Israel before, or is this the first trip?
This is my pilgrimage, very first time ever.
Well, it is amazing. I've been a number of times to Israel, and it is a breathtaking place. It is a place all of history converges on. It is the birthplace of Christianity. It is the birthplace of Judaism. In Israel, in Jerusalem, you walk down roads, the City of David, which is this underground archaeological excavation under Jerusalem. You walk down the road from the Pool of Shiloh to the old temple where Jesus most certainly walked. And you walk along it, and there are platforms that a street preacher, an itinerant preacher would stand and preach on, and I've stood on those platforms, and it takes your breath away that Jesus Christ almost certainly stood on this particular piece of stone, addressing the crowd of the Israelites who were there in Jerusalem. It is the Sea of Galilee. You imagine Jesus walking up to Peter, walking up to fishermen and saying, "Follow me and let me make you fishers of men," and not just fishermen. And it's a beautiful place. It is a profound place. So tell me, when did you arrive, and what have you done on the ground in Israel?
So arrived on Monday after a delayed flight, missed a flight because of actually the shutdown is what we were told with, yeah. And then we had a timeout with the air traffic controllers and also the crew on the plane. So we sat on the tarmac for about 5 hours in Houston, and then they said, "You got to get off the plane. We've lost our crew because of the rules."
Wow.
And this is a TSA, and it was at the very beginning of kind of the breakdown.
And are you part of a broader group, or like what's the reason for going to Israel?
Yeah, so I was asked to come over from the Israeli government, and also came with the CEO of IFCJ, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. There is a Christian leadership conference happening here as well at the same time. It is one that's been postponed because of the war, and so I was asked to speak at that. This is a conference where Bibi is speaking, where you have the mayor of Jerusalem is speaking. You have the U.S. ambassador Mike Huckabee as well, and it is bringing Christians together back to the Holy Land. But then what also has happened is they've set up these incredible moments and tours where I've been able to meet with some of the victims of the war and go and see where the war is taking place. So yesterday we actually went to the border with Syria and with Lebanon, and went literally to where we could see Hezbollah looking at us.
And you met with the parents of the kids who were killed on the soccer field. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So last night, I have, and I will try not to get emotional, but it's hard not to. I was asked to come and to meet with the families, some of the families there was 12 children that were killed while playing soccer on a soccer field. It made international news. Yeah. We covered it on this show. And they asked me if I would meet with the families and hear the family stories. And I was there, and the parents were talking of this was one of the little girls you can see who died, and her mother was the first one to speak. And
what were the age of the kids?
They want to tell the story. They were all different ages. They were very young to a 17-year-old, if I remember correctly. Some of it was through translation, but you can kind of see the different ages here. Some of them are obviously, most were younger, but you can see there someone's a little bit older. In junior high, you can see that's one of the oldest kids there. And that was, it's incredible. But we sat there and we were hearing their stories, these kids. And at the very end, they said they'd like to present me with something. I didn't know they were going to do this. And I put the picture up on social media, but the mother of this young girl said that they wanted to give me something. And I didn't see the ball before they brought it out, but these pictures on this ball, so people understand, they're stickers. They're handmade. And they said they wanted to say thank you for standing up for their kids and for telling their story to the world, because they want people to understand what it's like to live in Israel and what was taken from them.
And by the way, these were children that were doing nothing. They were playing on a soccer field. They were being kids, and suddenly Hezbollah rocket came over and killed them all.
Yeah, and it was the way that they described it was they didn't care who they killed. Yep. There was a lot of media spin that, well, this soccer field maybe wasn't directly target. Hezbollah doesn't care who they kill; they just want to kill Jews. One of the other things
one of the
was
points,
talked about yesterday,
Ben, that's important with both Hezbollah and Hamas, most of the rockets they fire have no guidance systems. So they literally
Zero.
just fire a rocket in the air towards Israel, filled with explosives, many times filled with anti-personnel shrapnel, ball bearings, and nails and screws and things that would rip human flesh apart. And they just fire them towards Israel because they figure, you know what? They're Jews over there, so let's just kill as many of them as we can. And whether it kills little kids, normally, in the vast majority of the times, military targets are not the targets. It's just fire it towards
Correct.
Israel, and if we kill Jews, we celebrate. And that, tragically, is what happened at that soccer field.
It's exactly what happened, and not far from where that soccer field attack happened, we went to an orchard. What's one thing that you learn so much from being here, but there is a lot of farming that is done in Israel. Israel does an amazing job with water and turning salt water into fresh water. It is what has kept this country alive and not dependent on others, especially in war when people would shut off water to Israel. It's the desert, and what they've done is unbelievable. We talked about that, learned about that, but we went to basically a kibbutz. It's a neighborhood. And in that neighborhood, in
northern Israel, southern Israel, where's the kibbutz you went to?
Northern, on the opposite side of where the attack happened. The initial attack happened on October the 7th.
Okay, so right by the
And
Golan
it was
Heights.
border with Lebanon and Hezbollah.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at the map, this would be in Syria, Hezbollah at the northern point. And
Okay.
they started us there because they said they wanted us to understand that the goal
And by the way, for folks
was
at home to
actually
understand,
attack from both sides.
for folks at home to understand, so Israel is a very small nation. It's about the size of the state of New Jersey.
Yeah.
Where October 7th happened was in the southern part of Israel. It's right by the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip is along the Mediterranean in the southern part, and Hamas, which is the major terrorist organization in the Gaza Strip, entered into southern Israel and murdered over 1,200 Israelis, raped women and little girls, took over 200 Israelis hostage. It was also one of the worst American terrorist attacks ever, as we saw dozens of Americans murdered, dozens of Americans taken hostage. Now, northern Israel, which is up by Lebanon and Syria, what you have up there is Hezbollah. Hezbollah is a different terrorist organization. Both Hezbollah and Hamas, their patron is Iran, and Iran funds over 90% of Hamas's budget. Iran funds over 90% of Hezbollah's budget. When October 7th first erupted, Israel quite rightly declared, we are going to utterly destroy Hamas. There was an interesting period that extended for weeks and then even a couple of months where it wasn't clear if Hamas would be, or rather Hezbollah would be drawn into this. Hamas was the aggressor on October 7th. And Hezbollah had the opportunity just to shut up and not engage. And then Hezbollah pretty quickly decided, nope, we want to raise our hand, we want to engage, and began just firing rockets, a massive barrage of rockets
Thousands.
into northern Israel.
About 60% of all the rockets on hand that Hezbollah had in their arsenal were shot during this war.
Repeat that. That's a powerful statement.
60%. And as we had our briefing from the Israeli government, we actually went to this neighborhood, this kibbutz, and in this neighborhood, their sin for being targeted by Hezbollah was that they farm pink lady apples that we eat in the United States of America.
And by the way, much of northern Israel was evacuated because the rocket attacks were so intense that the Israelis couldn't live there anymore because you couldn't go into your own home without risk of rock blowing it up. And so the amazing thing is Hezbollah literally volunteered and said, hey, we want to be part of this. And then the Israelis carried out the pager attack, which remains one of the most extraordinary military and intelligence operations I think the world has ever seen. Where, I mean, I've joked, but this is not a joke. If you wrote the pager attack as a script to a movie, nobody in Hollywood would buy it. If you wrote it as a Jason Bourne movie, they'd say, this is ridiculous. You're telling me Israel creates a shell company in Hong Kong, builds pagers years in advance, makes them heavy-duty, kind of serious, hardcore pagers, and embeds where the battery would be a tiny little explosive, then gets this shell company in Hong Kong to sell the pagers to Hezbollah. Like, how the hell do you do that? I don't know how you sell pagers to Hezbollah, but the Mossad does, Israel does, sells them to Hezbollah, and then This remains the single most targeted military and intelligence attack, I think, in history, because it was Hezbollah leadership that decided, okay, who is it that gets these pagers? I'm going to give it to every crazy-ass terrorist we have in Lebanon. The people that I want to be able to page and say, hey, would you go blow up a bus? Would you go blow up a mall? Would you go murder children? Take this pager. And then Israel, in a simultaneous moment, detonated all the pagers and took out every person that was injured, every person that was killed, with very minor exceptions of someone who was really close to a terrorist. They were personally selected by the leaders of Hezbollah. Hezbollah decided which terrorist died. And by the way, within a day or two, there was a second operation where Hezbollah was using walkie-talkies. Those blew up. And I got to say,
infiltrated. They blew those up as well.
Yeah. By the end of it, I think every Hezbollah terrorist, every Hamas terrorist, every Iran IRGC terrorist, like every time a phone rang, they jumped. It was extraordinary, and it was a response to what Hezbollah literally volunteered and said, we want to be decimated as bad as Hamas. And Israel said, well, happy to oblige.
So for the last several weeks, you've heard me talk with Josh Sherrard from Berna about real stories of how people like you and I have used their Berna launcher to protect themselves and their families. Now, Berna is a handheld pistol that fires both kinetic rounds and chemical irritants to separate you from an attacker. Josh is back with me today to tell you a real story about a Berna launcher that was used and how it helped a woman protect herself from a home intruder.
So a Chicago woman was recently the victim of a home invasion that occurred in broad daylight when several men broke into her home while she was inside in the middle of the day. And it was all caught on video. So while sitting in her kitchen, the homeowner began hearing strange noises coming from the front door. So she went to investigate and saw that intruders had made it inside her home, at which point she yelled that she'd called police to try and scare them off. Now, fortunately, in this case, it worked, and they promptly exited the house. And the victim and a neighbor actually chased the intruders down the street while calling 911. While on the phone with 911, dispatchers told the homeowner that police were on their way. However, it ended up taking police over 4 hours to reach the scene due to an overwhelming backlog of emergency calls. It was only sheer luck in this case that she wasn't hurt or killed.
And this is where you ask the question, is Berna something that could have been used in that situation for home defense? And how could she have deployed it to keep herself safe and deter those attackers?
Absolutely. In this case, she lucked out and she was able to call their bluff and they ran off. But in many cases, that's not going to happen. Any kind of resistance has to be used to get those attackers out and to get you to safety. Berna Max or kinetic rounds both would have allowed her the time to get out and get somewhere safe.
It is really an incredible option, and I have a Berna. I have real handguns as well, but I always have a Berna. And if you want to see what it can do to protect you and your family or a loved one that you know needs this, go to Berna, BYRNA.com. Again, that's Berna, BYRNA.com, Berna.com right now. You go back to this neighborhood, and as we went into this neighborhood, which the people have, a lot of them have still not returned. Some of the farmers are coming there to farm, but Hezbollah knew the houses that they were blowing up in this neighborhood were farmers. They knew that they were families, and what they did to justify their attacks early on was when the people had fled, the Israeli military would take back in to the husband of the home to go get some of their belongings before they would flee again. And they justified the military walking in the house as the reason to blow the house up. And so I met with a farmer who had 3 children the exact same age as my kids.
Wow.
And he was showing us his neighborhood. And he was talking about how I had to come back to tend the fields because this is my home. And I was literally under rocket barrage and would come to work knowing that Hezbollah was targeting the houses. And so finally, after a few days, the homeowner said to the military, don't go back into my house because as soon as you go in there, they blow up my home and everything is destroyed. We went into a home. The books of the children were still there. The stove was still there the way it was set that morning. One of the homeowners offered me a piece of a broken pot of their home and a burner of the stove and said, take it back, and a piece of their tile in their children's bathroom. I'll put it on my desk for the rest of my life. But to hear them talk about the brutality of Hezbollah, knowing that you're blowing up a farmer's home who has never bothered you in your entire life for sport. It was just for sport at that point. It wasn't even killing a person.
For pure,
they knew that they were
bilious
gone.
hatred.
Yeah, just pure sport and hatred. Like, we're going to blow up your neighborhood because you are Jewish. We know you're not there. We know you have fled, but we want you to come back to destruction and ruins. And to
so
see
you've
that,
been in northern Israel. Have you been in
what,
Tel Aviv? Have you been in Jerusalem? Where else have you been?
Been in Tel Aviv as well, which is an incredible city. I didn't realize how much it's like New York City or a major.
Yeah, it's a very modern city,
nightlife city, thriving modern city. A lot of technology out of there that is actually exported to the rest of the world. It's incredible. The minds that are the brilliant minds that are working in Tel Aviv. I'm staying in Jerusalem. I do want to say one other thing.
Is that where you are now? Is Jerusalem? Are you at the King David Hotel?
Yeah, I'm in Jerusalem. I'm at not the King David. I'm at the. It starts with an A. I can't remember the name. I'd have to look around the room and find it. But it's right at the entrance of the markets here, and it's a beautiful market that they have built this city to try to revive Jerusalem and make it even more for tourists. It's incredible. The people here are so kind. But one other thing I want to mention about this trip so far is I met with the mother of one of the hostages that was taken that became, unfortunately, she became famous. If you remember the videos that came out, there is a girl that's been separated from her boyfriend. She is in between two terrorists on a motorcycle, and she's reaching out and screaming for her boyfriend, who is being held with his arms behind his back by two terrorists, and they're separating them. And that video just went viral early on in the moments after. He was held underground for 2 years without seeing sunlight and was starved. He was returned. They just reunited. You may have seen that video of them in the hospital, finally getting to see each other again and hugging and falling backwards as they hug on the hospital bed. And the mother was telling the story of her son and the trauma, the way that they were mentally tortured and lied to, that there was destruction of all of Israel, had been destroyed, that they were told that their loved ones had been killed, their family members had been murdered, that no one had survived, that they were going to die, that they were going to dig their own grave. Some of them did. To see the torment, and I think that's one of the things I will forever remember from this trip, and I'm grateful for it, is when we talk about what this is like, the psychological warfare center and the evil of Hamas and Hezbollah has no ends. Whether it's blowing up farmers' homes for sport, whether it is killing children, is that the soccer ball, and seeing these kids who were their only crime was being Jewish and playing sports. That's it.
Look,
this little girl whose mother I met yesterday, and I put it up on social media.
Who kill civilians are the embodiment of evil, and sadly we live in a world where evil is plentiful.
It's incredible. So today I'm going to be leaving with the government and going down to the site of the attack at the festival, and I'm going to be meeting with some of the hostages there. I'm going to hopefully tell those stories as well in one of our next episodes, because it's just telling their stories and letting people understand what happened that day. And going to go to the kibbutz that were attacked there and tour the homes of the children that were murdered in their cribs. I'm going to meet with the families of the elderly that were killed, including Holocaust survivors. I met with some Holocaust survivors that were are homeless in essence and had to move to Jerusalem to survive the war. I met with them as well. Incredible stories. So we'll have more of that, I promise you, coming up in other episodes. But I want to say to everyone that is listening, if you are a person of faith, the pilgrimage to come here and to see, I think the hope of our faith in Christianity, to walk where Jesus walked, to walk where he carried the cross. I did that the first day I was here. Yeah. And to be able to just see the Sea of Galilee and witness where so much of our 80% of the biblical history in the Bible with Jesus, I got to witness from standing in one place.
It's amazing to see.
And it spread to the
see
world.
Where they believe Jesus was crucified, where they believe he was buried, and where he rose again in heaven.
I got to go to the tomb, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, standing in the tomb, look, as a believer, it takes your breath away.
Yeah. As I described it to family in a text, I said the level of feeling, I would say, the Holy Spirit in these places is something I've never felt before. The second closest I've ever felt to that type of spiritual gathering of Christians was honestly at Charlie Kirk's memorial, and it was incredible. Two of the biggest spiritual moments in my life have happened in the last 60 days, both in a weird way around tragedy, which also is why I think it's incredible when you're a Christian that you know that God is still a God of hope.
Amen. Let's talk about bad news here at home. Tuesday was a
the election.
Really bad election. All right, so let's start with Virginia. So Virginia, we're sitting here, it's now 11:36 p.m. on the East Coast. We have 95% of the vote in. And Abigail Spanberger, the Democrat, has 57.4% of the vote. Winsome Earl Seals has 42.4%. So it's, at this moment, it is 1,905,452 votes to 1,408,220. And I will say 4 years ago, Glenn Youngkin won. And it was a great moment for America. Glenn is a good friend. Virginia turned red. In this race, Winsome and I went and helped do a fundraiser for Winsome a couple of weeks ago. Winsome is an African-American woman. She's a strong conservative. She was an immigrant from Jamaica. She's a Marine veteran. She was a strong candidate. She was massively outspent. I think she was outspent more than 2-1, maybe even 3-1. That being said, you go back to the debate between Abigail Spanberger and Winsome Earl Sears. I've never seen a more lopsided debate. Abigail Spanberger stared ahead, refused to look at her. Like, you and I have both seen, I don't know, hundreds of political debates, a lot. I've never seen a political candidate refuse to make eye contact with their opponent. She literally, her attitude was one of contempt, like, you don't exist and you don't merit even my attention. And I got to say, it makes me sad. Look, given the money differential, I'm not shocked that the Democrat won. We're looking at right now a 15-point win. That is really, really bad news.
It's also, I think, one of the things that was the most shocking about Virginia as we break this down. I'm not surprised Democrats won there. I do think it was a left-leaning state. Youngkin, when he won, it was a perfect storm. You and I think, are the first to admit that, and I love doing the show with you.
Yeah, and I campaigned for Glenn all over Virginia. I spent 2 days on the road with Glenn, barnstorming the state. We won it 4 years ago, but this is a different environment.
Yeah. It was a perfect storm with
and he was better funded than Winsome was.
No doubt about it, but there was a perfect storm with the issue there with parents and rights and schools and the cover-up of
in Loudoun County, you're right.
Ideology.
So it's worth remembering what happened in Loudoun County right before Glenn Youngkin's race, where you had a teenage boy in high school who went into a girl's bathroom in high school. He was dressed as a girl. He was in a skirt. And he sexually assaulted. He sexually assaulted a teenage girl. And the school covered it up. They hid it. And the father of the teenage girl went to the school board, confronted them, and said, "My daughter was raped in your school, and you're not acknowledging this." And they yelled at him. They said, "No, there has never been a boy dressed as a girl who sexually assaulted anyone." That was a lie. By the way, this same sexual offender was transferred to another school where he sexually assaulted another girl.
And did it again.
Yeah, he did it again. But they ended up arresting the father of the girl, of the victim. And that moment was such a clarifying moment. You also had the Randy Weingarten, the head of the teachers unions, campaigning with Terry McAuliffe, the Democrat nominee, where McAuliffe said, "Your kids are not yours to educate. We're in charge of your kids." It was a perfect storm.
In other words, the state's property.
And the voters said enough is enough.
Youngkin as well.
Now, at the same time tonight, and we're now at 11:40 p.m., 11:40 p.m. with 94.6% of the votes in, Mikie Sherrill in New Jersey won 56.2%, and Jack Ciattarelli won 43.2%. So it's very, very similar. The vote totals are right now, 1,774,178 votes for Mikie Sherrill, the Democrat, and 1,365,952 for Jack Ciattarelli. I got to admit, this is an even more surprising result for me than Virginia. Of the three major elections tonight, I was most optimistic about New Jersey. Ciattarelli seemed to have momentum. There were a bunch of Democrat mayors and elected officials that were endorsing him. And, this is just, that's what, a 13-point differential as we sit here tonight. That is a massive, massive loss. And what is disappointing is that's not just a loss in Virginia and New Jersey, but Virginia and New Jersey are historically the first off-year election after a presidential election. They are frequently a canary in a coal mine. So you go back to after Obama was elected, you had Virginia and New Jersey both elected Republicans. And it proved a forerunner of a great Republican victory coming. This ain't good. To have double-digit losses in both New Jersey and Virginia is a really bad sign. If you're a Democrat tonight, you're thrilled, you're encouraged, and if you're a conservative, if you're someone who loves America, this is a major warning sign.
And I'll say this, it's a warning sign, but I also want to put it in perspective because these are states that are not Republican states.
True.
So I do want to put that in perspective. I also want to say, and I want to give a little bit of hope here. The amount of money that came in, and let's go back to Virginia for a second, was astronomical. You had a candidate that won on the ballot in Virginia that had text messages came out saying he wanted his political opponents to die, including their children, and said in those text messages that it's only when Republicans are basically murdered, their children are killed, that then they will move to our ideology. That is the same type of conversations that I've been having in Israel about what terrorists believe. And yet that person also won in that race. So I go back to Democrats are angry. They are mobilized right now. Mamdani, for example, in New York, which we're going to move to in a second, and a straight-up communist is now going to be running America's greatest city. He just wrapped up his speech there in New York City. But the amount of money that Democrats put into Virginia, which, again, is a Democrat state. We did not have a perfect storm on the issues this time like we did with Youngkin last time. I think Youngkin was a better candidate. I just want to be clear about that from a political perspective of which candidate was better. And Virginia, we had some momentum there. It's still a very liberal state. It is New Jersey is a liberal state.
Yeah, but let me say a couple of things. Number one, Virginia and New Jersey are both very, very liberal states. Virginia has a ton of government workers in Northern Virginia. The Democrats have just caused the longest government shutdown in American history. And they nonetheless had an amazing
on purpose
victory. It was on purpose. So one of the things I said, the Democrats would not open the government before today because they believe the shutdown energizes their base. I predicted we'll see the government open either later this week or early next week. And yet, apparently all of these government workers who are not getting paychecks, who haven't gotten paychecks for 35 days, they all voted left wing. They all voted Democrat. Even the folks that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats purposely shut down their jobs, that their ideology mattered more than their own home mortgage. And I got to say, you underscored.
Let's also explain the political side of Virginia for people that don't live in D.C. or never have or never worked in D.C. So the majority of people that work in government in D.C., and that's a lot of employees. If you have kids, a lot of them don't live in D.C. District of Columbia is different housing, different schooling. The majority of my friends that work in politics in D.C. live in Virginia.
Yeah,
so
I don't know
when you
that
talk
I
about
would
the
say
government jobs.
In the aggregate, I don't know that I would say the majority of the people, but a large percentage live in Northern Virginia, a large percentage live in Maryland, and a significant percentage live in D.C.
Want to take a moment and just talk to you real quick about an incredible opportunity for you to continue to expand your mind and learn no matter what your age is. Senator Cruz and I were at the memorial service for Charlie Kirk, and one of the people that spoke was the president of Hillsdale College. And he talked about meeting with Charlie early on and how he said, you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to suffer. and you're going to have to continue to learn when he was so young. And he talked about all of the classes that Charlie ended up taking at Hillsdale. I immediately said, I want the listeners of this show to be able to have the same opportunity to do that. There are amazing classes: history, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. And if you didn't study these things in school, or maybe you did, but you were like, just trying to check the box and make the grade when you're 20, now is a great time for you to go back and learn so much more. Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free, I want to say that again, 40 free online courses. That's right, more than 40 free online courses. You can learn about the works of C.S. Lewis, the stories in the book of Genesis, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. I'm doing that one. It's incredible. The rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or the history of the ancient Christian church, with Hillsdale College's free online courses. Now, I'm also looking at the Constitution 101. It's amazing, a refresher course, and you can see and explore the design, the purpose of the Constitution, the challenges it faced in the Civil War, and how it's been undermined for more than a century by progressives and liberals. This 12-lecture course is self-paced, so you start whenever you want to, and it is truly amazing. So how do you do this? You can go right now to hillsdale.edu/verdict to enroll. There is no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/verdict, VERDICT, to enroll for free and take any one of these classes. Take advantage of it. It's free. hillsdale.edu/VERDICT, verdict, and go check out the amazing classes they have there. I mean, I think in Virginia, the ripple effect is maybe a better way of describing it, which is if you live in Virginia, the chances that you are either related or one of your very good friends is missing a paycheck right now is extremely high.
And they
Democrats
didn't care.
Knew that.
They're so partisan.
And they wanted the government
Trump
to be shut
so
down.
much.
Yeah, they wanted it.
They're just angry. And I want to say, I want to underscore something you said. Look, the governor's race is very disappointing. The one that is frankly shocking is the Virginia AG race. So Jay Jones, the Democrat, won. He won with 52.9%. He beat Jason Miyares. Jason Miyares is the incumbent Republican. He's Cuban-American. He got 46.7%. So it was, as of right now, 11:47. Jay Jones got 1,740,370 votes, and Miyares got 1,533,841 votes. That is truly shocking because Jay Jones is the one who texted that he wanted to see the children of the Republican Speaker of the House murdered. And it was, at a time of political violence, this sick, depraved psychopath. And I'm sorry, if you were wishing, and by the way, he knew those children. These were not abstract children. He knew his colleague. They were both serving in the state legislature. He knew his colleague's children, and he said, I want to see them murdered. He also said he wanted to see his colleague murdered. And at the time of glorifying violence, and there was enormous discussion. Now, Abigail Spanberger refused to condemn him, and I will say the Democrats, the degree of message discipline, not a single Democrat in Virginia that I'm aware of or nationally condemned Jay Jones for saying in writing he wanted to see the children of his political opponent murdered. Look, the Democrat Party, the message discipline, if he were a Republican, they would have thrown him overboard in a heartbeat. But the Democrats don't care.
Yes,
they're just like, nope, we're on this team. Little bit of murder of children doesn't matter. We're in support of it. I got to say, and there was a lot of polling. Look, Winsome Sears, the polling had shown for a fair amount of time that she was losing. Miyares, the polling had shown that he was winning. And so this is a surprising result that we're looking at a 5-6 point victory. That means there are Democrats that do not care. I've got a candidate who wants children to be murdered. That's my guy. Like, wow, that is a depressing and sad statement of where we are as a country.
It is. And if you go from that to New York City, which, look, Mamdani said in his speech moments ago, this is a clear victory for people wanting change. This race, Senator, was really about class warfare. It was about Robin Hood campaign for him. It was a straight-up communism. I mean, the red apple is literally a communist apple now, a man that wants to take from the rich, give to the poor, push people out that are wealthy and successful, tax them into to being poor, and run people out of the state that he says don't want to pay their fair share or that are fighting him. He's all about giving away free stuff, whether it's free busing or free food, free grocery store. Like, this is full-blown communism is what he's an advocate for. A guy that's never had a real job in his entire life, a guy that's a radical. His parents are radical as well. He won overwhelmingly in New York City. That is the biggest concern for me, is that this cancer of socialism in the Democratic Party is spreading, and I would say spreading rapidly, to America's biggest and most important financial city.
Look, Comrade Mamdani is now the mayor of New York. That is incredibly distressing. This man is a communist, and he is a jihadist. And those are not, not using those as empty epithets.
Explain the jihadist aspect so people know what you mean by that.
So listen, this is someone who has cheered for Hamas. He has called for the eradication of Israel. He is an Islamist. He believes in political Islam. He had told the people of New York that police brutality in New York was trained and taught by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. That's psychotic. He is a communist, and I don't say that in the sense that, like, sometimes people say, oh, Democrats are all communists. No. This is someone that calls for seizing the means of production in society. He is an explicit, and this is something that's called the Red-Green Alliance, which is the alliance between jihadists and communists, and Mamdani is the intersection of both of them. There's some Republicans that are happy. They're like, okay, this is great. We'll have great victories in 2026 and 2028 because there's such a whack job as mayor of New York that in every other state we'll be able to campaign against Comrade Mamdani. I am not celebrating. Look, New York's not my favorite city in the world, but New York is a crown jewel of America. New York is the financial capital of the world. New York is the media capital of the world. By any measure, New York is one of the most important cities in America. And to have New York now governed by a radical communist jihadist, let me tell you what's going to happen. More people are going to die in New York. Comrade Mamdani is going to wage war against the NYPD. I'm in New York quite a bit. I can tell you, I actually can't tell you how many New York cops have said they're terrified of what's going to happen if this guy wins. You're going to see the police.
Well, he's made it clear in the past. He wants to get rid of all police. He said he wants to abolish the police. He believes there should be no police force in New York City.
Look, there's going to be more murders in New York. There's going to be more rapes in New York. There are going to be more children attacked in New York. We're going to see
more
people
drugs
with resources fleeing New York, coming to Florida, coming to Texas, and the results as of 11:52 p.m. Mamdani, 50.4%. Andrew Cuomo, who was the governor of New York, he's a Democrat. He's not like a right-wing guy. He's Andrew friggin' Cuomo, 41.6%, and then Curtis Silva, 7.1%. Now, look, I would have liked to have seen Silva drop out.
I
give Cuomo
I called for him to drop out on TV.
Yeah, to give Cuomo a better chance of winning. 7% is just a spoiler, but I'll tell you what's distressing. As of right now, even if Silva dropped out, if you gave every bit, 100% of Silva's votes to Cuomo, and you wouldn't have, there's some people that would say, I'm not voting for Cuomo, but if you gave 100%, Silva, as of right now, had 146,127 votes. Cuomo had 854,783. If you add those two together, it's still less than what Mamdani had of 1,035,646. So Mamdani right now is at 50.4%, which means it didn't matter. A majority of New Yorkers wanted a communist jihadist. And I got to say, a couple of days ago, like We saw some Jewish rabbis in New York endorsing Mamdani. I got to tell you, a buddy of mine I went to college with, very smart guy, brilliant guy. He was a college debater. Actually, I debated with him, but he is a liberal Democrat. He is a Jewish New Yorker. I was in New York 3-4 weeks ago, and we spent about an hour sitting around a glass of scotch, where he was explaining he had voted for Mamdani, and I don't know what to say to that. Like it is truly terrifying how
this is where the Democratic Party is going.
This is the future of the Democrat Party. You might think, okay, that bodes well for America because the rest of the country will move in the direction of common sense. I got to say, at least New Jersey and Virginia are not encouraging in that regard.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Finally, want to get your quick thoughts. It is official. I'm looking at the numbers on the TV right now. California has passed Proposition 50. Tell people what that is quickly and your reaction to that.
So California wants to redistrict. They're going to redistrict to create 5 new Democrat seats. California is already one of the most heavily gerrymandered states in the country. I think 83% of the seats are Democrat, even though only about 60% of the votes are Democrat. They're going to jack it up to over 90% Democrat. They're just they're trying to eliminate Republicans. They're telling Republicans in California, you have no voice. And this is an example. Democrats do not give a damn about democracy. This is all about power. Now, you're going to see other Republican states respond. You're going to see other Republican states redistrict. They claimed they were doing this in response to Texas, but Texas went from about 63% Republicans to about 76% Republicans. Texas votes overwhelmingly Republican. So by any measure, even under the new map, Texas is markedly less gerrymandered than California used to be. And they decided 83% is not enough. We want to get north of 90. This is pure power. This shows Gavin Newsom has contempt for democracy. And it is sadly typical of where Democrats are nationally.
Yeah, it is. It truly is. And they just said if you're a Republican in California, you have zero representation here. Get out, leave this state, and we will not listen to a word that you say. It's amazing. It is, like you said, it was a rough night for Republicans. I say it again, putting it in perspective, these are all places that lean Democrat. They had a lot of money. They had a lot of momentum. They wanted to show some victories against Donald Trump. The government shutdown clearly had a big impact in the Virginia race there, and I'm still in shock by where we are in New York City with a full-blown communist there. We're going to keep talking about it. We'll keep you informed, and we'll also I will be giving you the stories coming up in 2 days about seeing where this massacre took place on the October 7th attack in Israel, and the victims I'm going to meet with. We'll have all that for you on the next verdict. Also, this one is we're doing a dual podcast with my show, the Ben Ferguson podcast as well. So hit that subscribe, auto download button or share, and I'll be back with you from Jerusalem in just 2 days. Senator, get some sleep. I'm awake, and we'll see you soon.